Are sellers on Bring a Trailer freaking out? Is the sky falling? I don't know. We are going to talk about the predictions that we made on the last episode. And after you see the results, you might be freaking out. This is Bid Nerds. The bidding starts now. Nerd! Bid Nerds is your daily YouTube car game show, where we predict the online auction results of the most interesting cars on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Haggerty Marketplace, and more. It's just like the Price is Right game show. Play along and see if you can beat the nerds. And we are live. Welcome to Bid Nerds, everyone. My name is John Polnik. We are coming to you live from the Container Park in downtown Las Vegas, the Rami studio. My name is John Polnik, like I said. In the middle there, we got Wayne Bennet from Tech Daily. He's back. How you doing, Wade?
Good to be back. I have to say, though, I'm a little nervous to be back because you guys have been killing it the last a month or two that I've been away. More than 2,000 subscribers now, dozens of new nerds. I'm scared. There's a lot of eyeballs looking at me now.
The nerd herd keeps growing, and we couldn't have done it without you. Welcome back. Great to have you in the hot seat. And, of course, my partner, Michael Deeb, in San Francisco. What's up, Michael Deeb?
What's up, guys? I think it's really funny. We had Nicole Johnson on a couple of times, and then suddenly Wade's back in town and he wants his seat back. I think this is really funny. It's a competition. We should have them do like some sort of lubricant fight to the death, you know?
Nerd herd, original nerd herd versus the nerd bird. All right.
Yeah.
We are excited about an episode.
Third bird.
Yeah. The third nerd, third bird. There it is. We'll have some fun with that. Nicole, hopefully you're watching in the comments. This is going to be a fun show. The last episode, if you caught that one, this is a live show. We had technical problems all over the place. Knock on wood. Hopefully we won't have those problems this time. But we still were able to make some predictions on that episode. So it'll be pretty fun. Let's go ahead and before we get to reconciling our predictions on from the last episode, keep in mind this is the show where we find the most interesting cars from all the automotive enthusiast auction sites like Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, P-Car Market, and more. We also make sure that when we find these cars and the most interesting cars, and we have a conversation, we make the predictions, we talk about how wrong we are with those predictions all the time. That's how we start the show, but we got to give a shout out to our friends at Godden Porsche and Godden Classic of Las Vegas. If you're looking for parts for your classic Porsche, or if you want to restore your classic Porsche, or if you just want a classic Porsche, give our friends at Godden Classic a call. And you're probably looking at your watch going, come on, it's time to get to the predictions and the reconciliations, and I know that because I had my Fine Swiss watch repaired and serviced at Oursmiths, oursmiths.com. Fine Swiss Repair. Give them a holler if you are looking for a Fine Swiss watch to add to your collection or just need service. Oursmiths. All right. Welcome Nerd Herd too, guys. You guys rock. Thanks for hanging out with us. We wouldn't, this show would not be what it is without you guys. You're the reason why we do it. And we are excited. Okay. Let's get to the first car that we made a prediction on the last episode. You ready to go, Wade? Getting back in the seat? Back in the saddle?
We'll see what happens. Happens.
Okay. What do we got, Michael Deeb?
All right, JP. We started off the show by covering the old 1981 Porsche 924 Safari. This was a car that was built by a couple of friends of ours in Las Vegas, and a car that you had access to potentially purchase, or at least you thought you did because you made an offer on it before it was sold the first time on P-Car Market. We covered the car, and back then, I think it sold for like, what did it go for, JP? Like 15 or 17? What did it go for?
It was actually $19,110.
That's right. $19,110. And we covered it back then. So this car has come up for sale, this time on BaT. And we wondered, in a better economic climate and with on the bigger, more superior platform, how this car would fare. Plus, it's just a really cool car. Who else has seen a 924 turbo Safari car? I started the bidding absentee at $28,000. And as I watched the show unfold, I typically was the high man on campus. JP, you parked your bid right underneath me at $27,924. Buddha, who was in studio with you, took the really, really low bid of just $15,000. Gerd, who was also in studio but off camera, was at $22,900. And Nicole Johnson, the third bird, she came in kind of right in the middle at $21,400. Wade, it's a really cool car. We haven't seen too many Safari, transaxle builds. This one really looks the business. And the guy who bought it for 19 has allegedly spent quite a few dollars to upgrade and get this car to be in even better mechanical condition than it was when he bought it. So now the car comes back to market with really good photos, I think, and it's on BAT. What do you think this car would have hammered for when it closed the other day?
Knowing nothing else other than the pictures, I'm going to guess $24,924. And I'll just say this. I've never seen a Safari 924. 911s all day, but that is really interesting, really unique, and great pictures.
Doesn't that look good?
Really, it really shows
it kind of looks like it looks like a desert racer. And like I said, this guy did a lot to improve on what Wick and John had built back in the day. So JP, it's really interesting. When Buddha dropped his bid, I was like, Buddha, what are you doing? And then the hammer came at just $17,250, which in of itself is a surprise. But the even bigger surprise is that it sold for that number, meaning Buddha was the closest person in studio. 27 bids is what it took to get there. So it's not like this thing only got like a dozen bids in FTS. It got nearly 30 bids and sold for that number. Read the tea leaves for me. This guy buys it for 19, spends a bunch of money on it, and then sells it at a loss. Like at 17,250, it's the deal of the century. Where were you? How come you didn't buy it this time?
Well, our friend Nicole, who joined us on the last episode, and looks like she is in the chat. How's it going, Nicole? She hit me up about 20 minutes before this thing closed, and it was still at like 12 grand. And I was like, yeah, she's like, if you don't buy this, you're an idiot. And I'm an idiot anyway.
She's right.
But she was right. So I was, my response to her was like, hey, this rocket is going to take off any second now. And it got a volley at the end there. I really thought this thing was going to go, right? Because all of a sudden the bids started coming in like they usually do in the last minute on Bring a Trailer. And we saw it go up and up and up and up and up. And then there was a new person that came in when it got up to like almost 17, but it was all... it was the minimum increment bid increases. So no one was taking a punch. And I think if that last guy that came in, I think if he would have come in, when it was still at 12,250 or whatever, and it's going up by $150 each time, if someone would have come in there and just put $1,000 over instead of $200, I think they would have knocked everyone out. Everyone would have been scared away, and he would have got it for even less money, if you can believe it. But I think the seller of this is just kind of looking at what the market's doing, and things just aren't as strong as they were when they bought it. It's a bummer for them because, like you said, Deeb, they did spend a little bit of money on improving the car. And part of me wishes that I had bought it, but also part of me says, well, and Nicole hit me up with this too. She's like, look, it's not worth anymore. If it doesn't bring more than 17 grand and change on Bring a Trailer, what's it worth? It's worth 17 grand, and that's it. Wade, what do you think of the results?
Yeah, a little.
I should add.
But go ahead, Mike.
It was no reserve. Wait, it was no reserve, and I forgot to add that when I recovered the car. But yeah, she's right. Wade, please, your thoughts.
Yeah, no, like you said, the market speaks for the car. The market speaks for the market, and this is the price that at least 4 or 5 or 6 other people who were bidding on it said this is all the money that this car is worth, which I think for us in the room is a little bit of a shame because, the pictures make this car look fun. The car itself looks like a great build. For under 20 grand, what other things can you think of that would be this fun, this interesting, this unique? But like you said, at the same time, JP, this is what this car seems to be worth in the market within the potential pool of people who would want this specific unique car. Maybe 6 months ago or a year ago in the hype of the Porsches and the hype of the Safaris and the hype of the car market, this would have been a $20,000 or $25,000 car easily. I will say one thing though. I think in the moment of bidding, when bidders start to kind of do those $500 jumps and $1,000 jumps, I almost feel like it encourages others to bid similarly. And when you only bid $100 more or $200 more, whatever the minimum was, I think people almost play this like who can inch the furthest ahead with the smallest amount of increments. So maybe a $500 bid or a $1,000 bid would have inspired others to say, hey, maybe this car is worth a little bit more. Maybe some people are willing to pay more. But I always felt that, as soon as the small increments kind of come in, it really kills the momentum. You're not going to get a ton more money. And that seems to be what happened here.
I think that it's like a check raise or all in, right? And you just beat me. Wade and I just played a little bit of Texas Hold'em at our friend Taylor's place just a couple of weeks ago. That was pretty fun. But Wade beat me on a couple of big hands there. And so what do I know? I feel like an all-in move would have pushed people out. Just check raises keeps people in, but I can definitely see where you're coming from. Ultimately, what do you guys think of the results of this really, really cool 1981 924 Turbo Safari? Is this one that got away? Would this have been a better, if it were on a different day, do you guys think it would have brought more? We certainly can't lean on the listing. Everything was really well laid out. The photos were great. I'm really shocked by these results. And regardless of the fact that the car probably is going to be worth about, 15 grand here from now till forever, unless there's some big spike again in the market. I still kind of wish I had gotten it, because I really feel like this is just a great way to be in that classic Porsche world for next to no money, and very little liability too. Very little, you're just not out on a limb with this thing. If the engine goes, well, you can find another 4-cylinder or, slap a 944 engine in it, and those are everywhere. So I don't know. Let us know what you guys think of the results of this 924, and we're going to move on to the next one. What do we got?
All right, JP. We also selected a 1986 Volkswagen Scirocco 16 valve on Bring a Trailer. Our car was offered for sale by 911R, our buddies up at Avant-Garde in Portland, Oregon. The car is showing 184,000 miles, and is a veteran, or what do they call, an alumni of Bring a Trailer, having sold back in 2019 for $28,000. The car comes back to market, and not only touts beautiful bodywork and interior that belies its age, but some really cool BBS wheels and a lot of suspension tuning. I know you guys were sort of wondering about that as you covered the car initially, but beyond the step tower brace, this car has springs and shocks and sway bars and all sorts of things. I imagine this is probably one of the better handling Scirocco's in the country, because it looks like no money was spared in making this, tuning this to be a great driver's example. With that in mind and the sexy photos from 911R, we suspected that this car might do well. As such, I started the bidding at $41,000. JP, you took the over at $45,000. Buddha was in studio and took the under at $38,000. Gerd split the difference between me and Polnik at 43, and Nicole, who said she'd never seen one of these in person, took the high road and said that she liked the car and thought it might bring $49,000, which is not a bad bid, because again, Nicole, where are you going to find another one like this? We rarely see cool Volkswagens from this era come to market, and oftentimes when they do, we don't miss out. Wade, what do you think? Super nice, tuned to the hilt Scirocco. The motor seems to still be stock, but this car probably rolls speed unlike any other front-wheel drive out there. What do you think this thing did with 911's backing on Bring a Trailer the other day?
Oh, man. If there's three things that are certain in life, death, taxes, and you guys talking about Siroccos, I swear to God. I've learned so much about a car I never knew before I was on this show. This seems like a great example of one, as far as I can tell, and it's represented by one of the top people on Bring a Trailer, which I think helps. Part of me wants to say this is a $25,000 car just because I just don't know anything about it, but I feel like it probably hit like $43,500 because it seems like a great example, and I don't think 911R would take a car if it wasn't one of the best examples of it.
So before the world shut down, this car brought 28 grand. The market went up, and now it's come back down. So Wade, both your bids kind of make sense. However, our car hit $39,000 on just 14 bids where it failed to sell. So it'll be interesting. JP, knee-jerk reaction is, where do you think the reserve was set? I'm guessing the guy wanted 45 because at 39 they missed. If it was 40 or 41, I think BAT would have rolled this car no matter what. But at 45, I think they were wide of the mark. And this is the problem, John. When somebody's representing the car for you, it's nearly impossible for the guy who's repping the car to get the seller on the line and talk to the platform and move that reserve in real time. And they just missed out. 39. Do you think he should have taken the money? And where do you think the reserve was set? Those are probably the first two things that I think the audience is thinking. So what are your
lot
thoughts?
to unpack there that you just said there. Shout out to Chris Carbine for getting a Yahtzee. Congrats, my man. Good job. So that's pretty darn badass. It's too bad it wasn't for a sale, which this should have been. This is the nicest Scirocco we've ever seen on the platform. I think what hurt it ultimately was the amount of miles. Even though the car is kind of completely redone, I guess it doesn't matter. I cry BS on the whole idea of not being able to corral the seller and the platform at the same time. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. It's like, hey, seller, our car is closing at call it 11 in the morning. Let's make sure you're on the phone with me 15 minutes before close, and we're going to hang and watch the end and make some real-time decisions. Isn't that something that you would do to prep the seller? Is say, hey, okay,
yeah, I have to. I was just going to answer that thing, like your rhetorical question. Yeah, I have to do it all the time, but it's not easy, and clearly they didn't get it done.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, and I think that's why this car is going to be owned by the seller for a long time. Sellers are freaking out. Like we said at the beginning of the show, I mean, if you're sitting there looking at this thing going, I wanted 45 and it only brought 39, what the hell is wrong with you, dude? You should have just figured out a way to get this thing closed, because you're not getting any more than BAT and this seller, this consigner 911R. No one else is going to get more for this car, are they? What do you think, Wade?
I don't think so either. I mean, you have to look at it from the perspective of a couple of years ago. I think Michael Deeb said this car was maybe 25 or 30 grand at best. And now here it is almost hitting 40,000, represented by some of the best on Bring a Trailer. Sure, maybe some of the ship has sailed as far as the absolute peak market. But like you said, JP, if you want 45 and you get 39, I mean, you should be able to at least pull the reserve or make a deal or do something to close that gap. We don't know. I mean, this is all speculation. This seller may have been completely unrealistic and wanted 60 or 70. And some of the Nerd Herd bids were in the 50s as well. So maybe there's a good chunk of people out there who say, hey, this is a $50,000 or $55,000 car all day, and it just didn't get the attention it deserves. I don't think that's the case. I think for 39 grand or 42 grand, meet in the middle, this should sell and go on to the next owner. But who knows? I guess we'll have to see if it pops up anywhere else.
Well, the amount of money that they had to have spent the amount of money that they had to have spent to restore this car to this condition is probably pretty significant. So there's also the real possibility that the seller was like, well, yeah, maybe that is the market, but I'm in at 50 grand or 45 or whatever, and there's nothing that I'd rather have more. I thought I was going to, make some money on this car, and here I am going to be in the hole. If I'm going to be in the hole, I may as well just have the nicest Scirocco there is. What do you want to say, Deeb?
Two things. One, you congratulated Chris, but Brian L. also guessed 39. He got a Yahtzee. Randy and all the gang in the herd are shouting out to Brian L. So, Brian, congratulations to share the Yahtzee with Carbine. And to Wade's point, yeah, I think this car will show up again. JP, we'll find out exactly what this guy wants when it fails to sell in a week from now on PCAR Market and winds up in the chum bucket. At that moment, we'll know exactly what the reserve was set on BAT a week ago.
Yeah, that's assuming PCAR Market is up. Many of you hit me up this week. I was getting texts, what was it, Tuesday or something like that, that for a good day and a half, almost 2 days, PCAR Market's website was down. The site crashed. So it took them the better part of a day to put something on their social media to say what was up. And I guess the claim was some kind of
data center in the Midwest.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Whatever.
Whatever that means.
That happens. I mean, I get it. That's honestly probably not something that's their fault, but it is also possible that those guys just didn't pay their domain bill or something like that. But I doubt it was that. I kid, because the site was crashed, but when you went to it, the PCAR logo was there. But there was nothing else. So it makes sense, and that sucks. I feel bad for them as much as I ish on those guys all the time. We definitely don't wish things like that to happen. And I feel bad for the sellers who lost momentum. Is there a possibility that anyone got a stay of execution on that? Do you guys think that that's by extending someone's auction for a couple of days? Do you think maybe that brought some more attention? People talking about the fact that P-car market was down?
I think it would have to. I mean, you're going to bring all the people who would want to have been on the site for the last day and a half. All those auctions should have just been like, all right, last day and a half doesn't count. Bring everybody back. Make sure that, everything's adjusted. And I almost feel like if you're a P-car market regular, you're probably sitting there refreshing the page, waiting to come back, waiting to hear news. So probably maybe even spike their traffic a little bit. Just the
right?
Anticipation of like what happened.
Is it back? Is it back? Is it back? Yeah,
never
good
coming
point.
back. Like,
all right, guys, what do you think of the results of this great, amazing, beautifully restored 16-valve Scirocco represented by 911R on BAT that failed to sell for $39,000? If you're the seller, are you freaking out? Or are you just going, you know what? I'm going to have the nicest Scirocco there is and keep driving it and live with it. Let us know in the comments below. What else did we make a prediction on the last episode, Deeb?
All right, JP, we had one more car to cover from last show. It is a 2023 Ferrari Roma that Buddha, Mike Myers, who was in studio, had selected earlier in the week before he knew he was going to be called in to substitute for me. This car was on Cars and Bids. It was showing just 450 miles, sitting on a clean Oregon title up there in Beaver Creek. JP, right out of the bat, the thing I want to tell you is that this car is Bianco Avis, which is white, and it has a Rosso Ferrari interior color, which is bright red. All right, those things are relevant. Super low mile. The guy basically is flipping the car. One of the questions you guys asked in studio was, does this guy get blacklisted with his dealership for selling the car? Looks like he's had it for a year. It's entirely possible he picked up this car in late 2022. So in theory, he could have had it almost a year and a half, close to 2 years. With this particular model, Ferrari is not going to ban you. If you sell it on the open market after a year, that's fine. You would do yourself a favor if you gave it back to the dealer and allowed them to make more money on it. That would keep you high on the list, but I don't think they would ban you for selling it after a year, not a Roma. It's some of the other cars that they have lines that are 3 and 4 years waiting list. Anyways, I started the bidding on this car, even though I was absent, for $220,000. JP, you were the most bearish on the car. You didn't think it would crack 200, at least not on this platform. You guessed $195,000. Buddha, who selected the car, was also pretty bearish, giving us the bid of just 200 grand. Gerd, who was in studio, was 225, and Nicole Johnson, substituting for me, thank you, Nicole. She gave us the high bid of $247,000. Wade, you are a Ferrari owner. Wade, you have been complaining, vocalizing, and filling the suggestion box that while you were absent, we did 3 consecutive weeks of Ferrari coverage without you around. But Wade, you have to admit it worked. Look who's back. Exactly. Wade Bennet. It's a Ferrari owner, a front engine Ferrari owner. Wade, really quickly, what do you think this Roma would have done?
Hold on. Also, Wade is now like the president of the local Ferrari club. So he's a ringer. What do we got?
A coup d'etat on the Ferrari club here. I'm trying to transform them. But so I know what this car sold for, so I'm going to recuse myself from an official bid. I do have thoughts on it. Which we'll talk about afterwards, but I don't want to put in an.
Okay. All right. So what did this thing go for?
All right, Wade, I'll come right back to you. So the car hammered for $236,500, where it failed to sell on. Sit down, everybody. Sit down, because I don't want you falling out of your chairs. 84 bids. JP and I had a long discussion about this. We both think that in the 3 or 4 years that we've been doing this ridiculous podcast, that 84 bids may just be the highest bid count of any car we've ever covered on Bid Nerds. So that's just a footnote for posterity. But Wade, John, and I were talking candidly. At $236,500, I think this guy should have taken the money. I don't think this car is worth anything more. The low miles are great, but he has a white Ferrari with a full red interior, which is super polarizing. And again, if he had a more user-friendly Posey Blue or Titania or something that everybody wants, I think he could hold out for the money. But $236,500, one, now your car is burned, and two, you're stuck with a white and red Ferrari, which is is a very low, desirable colorway. I don't think this appeals to hardly anybody. I think that guy should have taken the money. So, Wade, I bring it back to you. I know there are waiting lists for every single model that Ferrari makes. Basically, everything that's in production now is sold out. The Roma Spider is the new car that's coming. But at 236.5, what do you think he should have done?
He should have taken the money and run. So
I knew it.
There's a couple of things with the Roma. So, the Roma was a successor to the California and the Portofino, and those were hardtop convertible cars that arguably looked more like a Ferrari, were a little bit designed better, they were more aggressive, and they were hardtop convertibles. Sure, they were the everyday Ferrari, the Weiss Ferrari, whatever you want to insult it, it still was a Ferrari. This one, I think, suffers from the fact that it's not a hardtop convertible, so you're not going to get California or Portofino owners to get it right now. The Roma Spider, maybe, but not this one. And arguably the design, I think we've all said, it is an F-type with a cheese grater front end. It just is not that enticing to people who have had any other Ferraris, which is a shame. And I think for a lot of people who bought this car, they bought it because they want to stay in the Ferrari family. They got to buy this car to buy the next one, to buy the better one, to buy the best one. I'm sure this person probably bought this so they could buy an 812 or, an SF90 or whatever it is they actually wanted. And this car is kind of suffering from that. This is, I'm sure, an over $300,000 sticker on a car that's been driven less than 1,000 miles, which, for a 1-year-old Ferrari, having 700 or 800 miles on it is nothing, but it's just still some miles. It's still a used Ferrari. And on the secondary market, if there's a price with a 2 in front of it, you should take it, because another 6 months from now, these will be under $200,000, which is scary to say. And I think this is one of the steepest depreciating Ferraris, just because it really hasn't found its market. It hasn't found its buyers. And I actually think the Roma Spider, which will launch either this year or next year, will probably do better, just because it's going to find the Portofino in California.
Soft top.
Yeah,
it's a soft top too. It's going to be a soft top convertible. 15% of new Ferrari owners are female. The California and Portofino, that number rose to 25%, making it the single strongest female take in the range. I disagree that this car was owned by somebody that wanted to get a better Ferrari. If that was the case, this car would have definitely been brought back to the dealer. That would have helped them get the car they were looking for. I just think this person got off the car and was trying to take the money. They should have taken the money. JP?
Yeah, this car should have, Ferrari from the factory, this car looks like it should be competing with maybe an Aston Martin Vantage or 911s or something like that. This thing, or the Mercedes GT,
MG.
A $200,000 car new. This car makes sense, or maybe $199,000. But the fact that it's over 300 out of the gate, just to me feels like the car's DOA. As much as I ish on the way that it looks, because the back end's kind of cool. It's not that bad. It's just not that good. It's not good enough to be a Ferrari. And there are a lot of competitors that cost $100,000 or more, or even 100% less than this car, or not 100%, but there's a lot of competition for your $300,000 when you're out there shopping. And this, I just don't see how this car really has any chance of getting that money when there's so many other things that you could choose out there. Ultimately, what do you guys think? Was the seller freaking out at the end of this auction? What was that like for this guy? If he thought this car was worth more than $230,000, he had to have been just jumping up and down in his seat and sweating like a little pig. What did that guy look like, you guys?
Who are we talking about?
The guy that was selling the car. What do you think he looked like at the end of this auction?
Leg bouncing, teeth clenched, and then when it finally hammered, he was probably like, God.
Did he smash his iPhone on the ground? And at
the end of the day, he still has a $250,000 car sitting in his driveway that he doesn't have to drive, I guess. So there are bigger problems in the world, but it still is a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. All right, what do you
Chris,
guys think?
Shout out to Chris Carbine, who guessed 239. That's two. He got 2 wins in the entire herd on last episode. So well done, Chris Carbine. Boy, he knows his lease returns, doesn't he?
Carbine is he's been practicing. All right, guys, we're going to take a very, very quick break, and we will come back with new predictions right after this. Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you gotta call our friend Steve at Godden, this guy. Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. If you don't... Hey guys, you're probably looking at your watch and wondering if Bid Nerds will ever end. So you better talk to our friends at Our Smiths to make sure your Rolex, Tag Heuer, AP, or any fine timepiece is in tip-top shape. Our Smiths, fine Swiss repair. Back? We are back, guys. Welcome back. Thanks for sticking around. It is time for new predictions. We've got some very interesting cars. I think all of the cars tonight are cars that were sent to us by Nerd Herd members. Excuse me. So let's get to those cars. And what's the first one on the list?
All right, JP. Actually, the first one is not. I selected this car because I actually don't think we've covered one of these. What I'm talking about is a 1984 Audi Sport Quattro. This is not the UR Quattro that's like a 200 horsepower turbo. This is the homologation special, and it is a premium listing on Bring a Trailer, brought to us out of Chanhassen, Minnesota. It's got a ZZZ VIN, JP, showing just 26,000 miles. One of just 214 examples built to homologate the model for FIA Group B competition. This is a car that was going head-to-head with the intention of the 959 and the Lancia 0037 and all that stuff. This is a really, really cool car. Not your dad's Audi for sure. Turbocharged 2.1 liter aluminum block inline 5. And this car has an engine that was modified by Lehman Motor Technik. Klug Motorsports 5-speed manual transactional locking center and rear diff. It's in tornado red with gray leather interior, 15 by 9-inch Renault wheels all the way around, AP Racing slotted and ventilated disc brakes. I mean, this thing is, JP, it's uber badass, and it sounds like it's got some pretty incredible upgrades to begin with. Stock, this car makes 300 horsepower. If it's got a rebuilt motor, sky's the limit, because if you turn up the boost on one of these, this car could theoretically be making easily 450 horsepower to the tires, and that's like no joke. But I mean, JP, just look at the cartoonish boxed flares on this thing. Again, 15 by 9-inch wheels. Have you even ever heard of a 15 by 9-inch wheel on a road car, except for like the fronts for like a Porsche RSR back in the 70s? This thing is the business, JP. Very decent photos as far as selling the fantasy of being your own Walter Roll for a day. Really, really cool car. As rare as it is, I didn't realize it was one of just 214. I actually thought they would have had to make, I think, 400 or 500 of these in order to homologate it. So the fact that they only made 214 makes it that much rarer, thus that more unattainable and more desirable to all the fanboys like myself out in the herd. It looks like in one of the photos, it comes with a set of hollow spoke 15-inch Speedline wheels, which are really beautiful 5-star. It looks like there's a full roll cage. I don't know if that's a bolt-in or a weld-in, but it comes with a cage. So if you wanted to take this thing out and go essentially, vintage rally racing with it, it looks like it's got all the goods to do it. But JP, a super rare car to begin with. I don't know that they actually, I take that back. I believe somebody imported a handful of these, and I mean like 8 or something, and got them federalized for the United States, but they did not come in through Audi North America. They came in through a dealer that wanted one for himself, so he found a loophole or created a loophole and brought 8 of them in. Anyway, really super cool car. I imagine it's here on the 25-year show and display. I didn't read that any further, but anyway, uber neat car, JP. I could talk about it for hours, but let's move on. What do you think, John? I know you're not a fan of owning an Audi, but man, when you look at this, do you not want to just go rip it for a weekend on one of our trips to LA or Baja or something? Like, how
you always say that. I don't like modern Audis, even though I've owned an R8 and a couple others. But this era of Audi is fantastic. I'm not in love with this kind of fake air duct thing in the back. I thought that scoop would have actually gone somewhere. That's so brand new Ford Mustang type thing. But this car is just absolutely gorgeous and just screams everything about the best era of sports cars. Let's face it, this is a dream right here. This is a cartoon. This is something that is just totally unattainable. We see amazing exotics all the time, especially in a place like Las Vegas where we live, SVJs and, Lambos and Ferraris and stuff like that. And, none of them... who cares? If you see something like this driving down the road, this is one of the few cars. Maybe I'm jaded. Maybe we look at too many cars. Maybe we go to too many car shows. But this is actually a car that if I think I saw one in real life, I would actually stop what I'm doing. I would turn my car around. I would go over and spend some time just looking at it. It's just looking at it is just joy. I can only imagine what it's like to actually drive one of these. Wade, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that take. At the end of the day, there are lots of Lamborghinis and Ferraris around town, around the country, but you're never going to see this car in person. I mean, this is as close as we may ever get to seeing it. And, the nice part is it seems like this is a car that has been well-loved, well-maintained, and well-used in some capacity. As it sits, it looks like it's ready to roll, ready to rally. So many of these cars sit in collections never to see, the road, let alone a speck of dirt. But this car looks like it's been, driven well as it should. But at the same time, I'm shocked to see how much attention this has brought on Bring a Trailer and the number it's currently at. I would have never thought how valuable this car is, but it seems like a lot of people are recognizing just how few there are and how nice of an example this one is. So I appreciate it from a distance. It's never something I'll see or drive, unfortunately, which is a shame because I'm sure it's a lot of fun. But this might be one of the ultimate Audis if you're that guy.
Yeah, used, but not all used up. Michael Deeb, what is this car going to bring?
All right, JP, couple of quick facts. Wade is correct. The car's had 30,000 views on BAT, which is twice the average car I think that BAT normally gets. This car has a fascinating provenance. So I'm going to start by saying, with a disclaimer, this car, in my opinion, should have gone to a live auction in Monterey. It should be with, my company, with Broad Arrow Group. I think they would get all the money for this thing because it's got such amazing provenance. The seller's father was a president of the Audi Club. He went to the factory in Ignoldstack. They sent him the car, and he had Andial in California have this car satisfy the North American Traffic Safety Administration and EPA regulations. So this car was technically homologated for the road. It could be one of those 8 I was talking about, but this was the car that started it. So it's a really special car, and then it's got this special aluminum racing block. This is a really significant car. John, it is worth noting our car is at $301,000 on 11 bids, and it still has 2 days to go before it closes. Initially, I thought this might be a $400,000 example, but JP, I actually think this is a $500,000 car. I don't know that it will get there on BAT, but I'm going to go with the high bid of $450,000 with the caveat or the asterisk that I think this is a $500,000 example because of the provenance and the components that are in there and the fact that you could put a California plate on this car and drive it around without any restrictions at all. This is a very special example of an incredibly rare car that created an entire brand image for Audi. This is the business. And if it got to 500 or even 6, it wouldn't surprise me because this car is peerless amongst a rare breed. So JP, $450,000 is my bid to you. Where you at?
I'm going to go ahead and go above you significantly. I mean, I'll go ahead and go $500,000 here. And I agree with you that it's worth that or maybe a lot more. The nerd herd is definitely speaking. But I'm with you also, Deeb, in the sense that this car doesn't belong here. Unlike that Ferrari Roma that we just talked about that failed to sell on Cars and Bids for $230,000. That seller's sitting there freaking out when that car didn't meet his reserve. I don't know what the reserve is for this car, but unlike the Ferrari, if this car does not meet a reserve, if this guy does have a 600 plus reserve and this listing doesn't get there, I don't think the car is burned. I think he just takes it to Monterey Car Week this summer
Week.
and hangs out
Yeah.
and gets the number he's looking for it. Because this car is special, whereas the Roma just isn't. Wade, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this is going to pull a pretty big number, but I think you guys are right. There's probably a little bit more still to go on at a Sotheby's or at a Car Week auction or somewhere else.
Yes.
With that being said, though, Bring a Trailer, they sell big, unique cars quite often. So, and if you've been looking for this, or if you know this exists, you probably know it's for sale. So it might get 90% of the eyeballs it deserves, but maybe that last 10% is another 50 or 100K that the seller wants. I'm going to say it hits 484,000, and it probably fails to sell. And then I think it goes to Monterey or somewhere else, and it hits 550 or 575, which is probably what it deserves.
Yeah. This car could wind up in Scottsdale next year, JP. Like, he might not bring it to Monterey because it's too soon after an FTS here, but next January, this car could be in the desert. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't be tough to be stuck with this car. How gorgeous is that? All right, guys, what do you think? Is the seller of this car freaking out right now, worried that the sky is falling, or do you think they're probably sitting there going, I don't care. This is one of the best cars ever to hit an auction site, and it's going to bring all that money, and if it doesn't, I'll just take it to another auction. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. And before we get to the next car, I actually have something I kind of forgot about. Rochelle just texted me to remind me. Andy Stahl, you guys may remember Andy Stahl. He's been a guest on the show. I helped him with his FJ Cruiser for sale a few weeks back, and I think he sold one of the most expensive FJ Cruisers ever. So he handed me a gift the other day at Red Rock Motor Club that we do the second Monday of every month, right? Was that Wade?
Yep.
Yeah. So Andy comes up to me and goes, "Hey, I got you something." I'm like, "Oh, great. What is it?" And he hands me this box. Now, this particular box, it's sealed, right? It's not. I haven't opened it. I was like, "Oh, should I?" He's like, "Go ahead and open it." I'm like, "Should I open it on the show?" He's like, "Oh yeah, open it on the show." And what do you recall his prediction? Wade, you were standing there, weren't you?
He did tell you something questionable. I can't remember exactly, but he said you might cry or scream or it might be inappropriate.
Yeah, he said I'd swear.
Yeah.
And then after that, I would feel good. So I have no idea what this is, you guys.
Can I guess? Can I guess?
Oh yeah. What do we get? We got some guesses on what's in this box that Andy would have gotten me.
I'm going to guess it's a Toyota MR2 keychain.
Ooh, that's good. I don't know if that would make me swear though. This is the kind of predictions I think the show needs. What do you think, Wade?
Oh man, I don't know. I kind of want it to be one of those cards you open that never stops singing, and maybe it's like, thanks for selling it, and it's a picture of the FJ, and then the card just never stops.
Totally ruin our auction. Okay, so I've got to cut this thing open here. Look at that.
Nice.
Got the little switchblade here as I cut myself. Oh wait, no, I get. Okay. What's that? Go ahead.
Wade, I wish you could have been on the call today with me and JP to listen to us try to figure out how we could shave 30 minutes off the show and get it closer to an hour. And now,
what's in the box?
We're unboxing a novelty for the grumpiest man I know, a guy I'd be scared to give a gift to.
You guys ready? You guys are gonna see what it is before I do. Scared.
Oh, okay. It's wrapped up.
It's wrapped up.
Good.
Oh my god, this is like a Russian doll or something.
At least
like
it wasn't a glitter bomb that exploded.
Yeah.
Right. I was expecting all the like butterflies to be running around. Oh, look at that! It doesn't make me sweat. He brought me a Volkswagen thing. How cool
nice.
is that, guys? That's pretty cool.
Awesome.
I like that.
Well
That's
done.
awesome.
Well done. Andy, good job. A white thing, Volkswagen thing. That is awesome. That's going to mean something to JP. Nicely done.
Get the little
Very
Porsche,
good gift.
I'm gonna put Porsche down the side. I'll get a little sticker for that, and that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
So but I could see why he said it would make me swear, because I do really want a Volkswagen thing, and I've been and I got ripped off on one recently, and you guys can watch the. You son of a bitch.
That's $1,000 thing.
You son of a bitch. You son of a bitch. Thanks, Andy. That was very thoughtful, and also reminded me.
Well done,
of,
Andy.
How stupid I am. All right, guys. Thanks for going along with that. That was a lot of fun. Rochelle says you're not going to get scammed by that one. That's great. Thanks a lot. My beautiful wife coming on here making fun of me. All right, guys. We've got another car to make a prediction on. What do we got?
All right, JP. Who picked this car? Sorry, give me a second. It was Anthony Vieira, our sugar daddy. Anthony selected a 2002 BMW Z8. JP, he started with the question, have we covered a Z8 before? And now I didn't really spend any time looking, but I feel like we have, haven't we? We
a long time ago. Yeah, it's been
back
a
in the
minute,
day.
but we absolutely have.
I mean,
at one point, we've got 500 episodes plus. So
pre Wade Bennet, because Wade would have remembered. He's young and he still has most of his brain cells, but you and I couldn't remember if our life depended on it. But Anthony, I'm relatively certain we have, but it's been long enough that it's worth looking at another one. Anthony found one for us on Sotheby's Motorsport, the new platform that we just covered, that Captain America looking America Roadster that Porsche made for the pleated pants crowd. So this will be the second car that gives us a chance to look at both the platform and what looks to be a seriously nice 2002 one owner 15,000 mile example of BMW's Z8 Roadster with the manual transmission. Our car, oh God, I still got to get used to this platform myself. Yeah. It's in Bridgeport, Connecticut. It's got just a day to close. We're talking black with the red and black interior. JP, I am just not a fan of the two-tone interiors from this era. Make mine with all red or all black, but the red and black is kind of miss me with it. But when you look at this car from the side and you see the red rollover hoops behind the seats, the sort of polished mirrors and the silver painted wheels and all the sort of chrome trim, this is a seriously good looking car. I don't know who designed this car for BMW, if it was somebody in-house or if they outsourced it to a design firm. But this car is the business. I love this thing. And by the way, Chris Carbine is on line too. He would like everybody to know he has access to one. If you're serious about a Z8, you should reach out to Chris Carbine. But I'm not going to digress from that. So Black Horse Garage is the seller. The car looks to be in really nice condition. Fair miles, JP. These aren't collector miles. But it's not all used up. We have seen some come to market with 70,000 miles that can't even break $150,000 in the secondary market. But at 15,000 miles, I think this is a car that you can invest your around $200,000 into, drive the car and put 4,000 or 5,000 miles on it, and still get your investment back out of the car. I'm not saying you're going to drive it for free, but I don't think you're going to depreciate this car by putting 5,000 or 6,000 miles on it over the next 2 or 3 years and then flip it to get your next high-end luxury sports roadster. So I like where this car sits. I think it's going to represent a decent value. JP, the photos are attractive to look at, but I don't think they're good photography. The lighting and the stuff, it actually doesn't work for me. It's a dramatic backdrop, but it's not a good way to judge the quality of the finish on the car. But other than that, here's the platform. These guys sell young timer cars. These guys really specialize in, how do I say, John? Sort of these younger, more high-end sports and exotic cars. This car really fits that niche. And I think this car will do well here. Plus, Sotheby's with their client list, I mean, if this didn't go public at all, I still think they could sell this car for what it's worth. So, John, I think it's going to do decent on here, even though the photography, at a glance looks good, but it's really not good photography, in my opinion. Where are you at with the presentation, and what do you like about the car?
Photography is terrible, and for a dealership that you can see some of the nicer cars in the background, for a dealership that represents cars like this, they should really they need to step up their game. This is a total fail on the representation of the car. The platform is interesting. I apologize to anyone watching this who has epilepsy. Every time, and if you're just listening, what I mean is every time I click one photo to the next, it flashes white. which is just really annoying. It's just off-putting as hell, and I'm not a fan of the platform yet. I think they've got bugs to work out, and I've been hearing people saying that they really think that this platform is kind of up and coming. I'm kind of curious about how their back end works. Is it more like Haggerty, where they provide escrow services and that sort of thing, or is it more like BAT, where it's just a dating service? We can talk about that maybe in a little bit. But about the car, the thing about I've always loved these Z8s. I think this is one of the coolest BMWs of all time. It's really an M5 convertible, and you guys know I'm not a cabrio phobe. These cars are just gorgeous. When they came out, the funny thing is this car came out basically the same time. What was it? The Mercedes SL 500s had the major body style change. Was that the R129? Yep. When they had the big body style change. And, I've owned one of those, and those are great cars. When those cars were new, like an SL55 was $165,000 brand new in 2003. And a regular SL, like just a regular SL 500 was over 100 at least. You get the most stripped down version was maybe 98 or 99. Whereas these were like 80 grand and no one was buying them. They were just like, you couldn't give them away. BMW dealerships, as you rolled into the Great Recession in like 2008, I remember these cars just languishing. No one ever wanted these cars. But as much as they languished, they didn't languish as bad. They never got lower than like $70,000, whereas the SLs plummeted. I mean, you can get an SL 500 right now of that era for, a nice one for $15,000, like maybe the nicest one. Whereas this car is going to easily be in the $100,000 plus. We've seen them at the height of the market, a year or two ago, hitting over 200 a few times. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this car. God, I want to see more pictures, but I hate clicking the button because it's flashing at me. Wade, what do you think of the car, and what do you think of this listing?
Well, speaking of flash, I mean, these pictures almost look like weird nighttime paparazzi pictures with the overexposed flash in the dark alley. It's like, like this. What is that? It's just flash. It's weird. Not the best representation for a car that arguably deserves better. An interesting spec. I know the silver over black is nice, the silver over red is nice, but the black over two-tone black and red might be a little polarizing for people who have been wanting this particular car. I think you said, Michael Deeb, one owner, which is really interesting, and not a ton of miles. So, it has some potential. I wonder what side of 200 it goes off of, under or over. I think that's probably where we're at. And like you said, JP, as far as the platform, the audience, and the usability, whether they're a brokerage, whether they're a dating site, whether these reserves, if there is one, are realistic, I'm curious to see, because this is the kind of car that I think can kind of set the precedent. If it does well, if it sells, if everything goes smoothly, could probably elevate this platform a little bit more, because we don't see these for sale that often. Or if something goes horribly wrong, I would lose my faith as a seller. But I guess stay tuned to find out, right? If you can click through the pictures and not have a seizure, that's a good start.
Yeah, if you're the seller on a new platform, are you freaking out? What's this thing going to bring? Michael Deeb, what do you think?
So, JP, I don't know that I remember these cars being as inexpensive as you imply. What I do remember when they came out was this was the first car that BMW knew, like each of the dealers knew they were only going to get a handful of them. And so many of them had buyers that had the money and wanted to get them. This was the first car that BMW gouged their client base on by charging them $100,000 over to get one. And then they did languish in the secondary market. All of a sudden, we had an economic downturn and everybody wanted to get off them. And so these guys, it was like a $200,000 car, $180,000 car that guys were paying $250,000 and $300,000 to acquire. And then they couldn't dump them for $150,000 or $140,000, and they were losing money. And BMW really soured the relationship across the country with all their best clientele. This car was an absolute marketing disaster for the brand and the dealer groups, the dealers network in the United States. That being said, JP, it is an M5 with a short wheelbase and less weight. This is a fantastic car, and I agree with you. This is This is arguably one of the most desirable cars they've ever made, and they still hold their value. These cars still trade. The average trading price for one of these is about $220,000. Our car closes essentially in a day from now, closes tomorrow. It is currently sitting at $152,000 on 24 bids. JP, I don't think this car will quite make the average, but I will give you, I said 195. I'm going to go $200,000. I actually think it'll get the two that it's looking for, but no more. 200 grand where I believe it will sell. 200 grand, JP, to you. Where you at?
Yeah, that's the question. Does it get over 200 or under 200 like Wade was asking? I remember when these were new, though, because like in 2004, I was in the position to maybe get either. Long story, but BMW dealerships had them. So I'm not sure where that whole, maybe I wasn't there. I wasn't a buyer when they were, when they first hit the market, but within a year of them being around, and because these are 2002 models. So they probably hit dealerships in 2001, so I was more like 2003 or 2004 or something like that when I was looking at them. But anyways, all that said, I'm gonna go with my buddy Leaf and take his bid at he says 198, but I'm gonna go 199. I'm gonna park it right underneath the 200,000 mark and see if Wade takes the over. What do you think, Wade?
I'm going to take the over. I think that I really want this platform to elevate this car a little bit more. I mean, coming from a Sotheby's, whether the platform is well known or not, the name is, and I think that having this car associated with that is going to elevate it a little bit more. So I'm going to take the over at 208. I think it sells, and if it doesn't, they're dreaming, because, at the end of the day, this is, I think you said, again, a one-owner car, hoping this person didn't spend $250,000 or $300,000 on it. If they bought it new, if they got a good deal and they've held it on for this long, take your 200 grand and get out of there.
Yep. Is the seller freaking out? Let us know what you guys think in the comments.
Hey, JP,
yeah, go ahead. All right.
One more point about the platform, JP. At Haggerty, we charge 7% buyer's fee, and we ask for a 7% seller's fee when we bring a car to market. I'm willing to bet that Sotheby's Motorsport is probably doing something pretty similar. So when we take into consideration that this guy, we think that the car is worth 200 or 210 or whatever it is, it's entirely possible that the buyer is on the hook for a 5% or 7% buyer's fee that we'd add to that. And at $200,000, that's another 10 grand. So we must, I'll try to get to the bottom of what the fees might be associated with this so we can take that into consideration. Because while we might think it'll hammer, we're guessing what the hammer is going to be. We also need to be mindful of what the buyer is ultimately paying for the car, because that might affect his bid. So we should talk about that moving forward. Thanks.
Yeah, and Haggerty, your platform, Haggerty Marketplace, they take the title and they collect the money and they pay the seller, and they get the car delivered to the buyer, whereas BAT just takes their fee out of your credit card and puts the buyer and seller together and washes their hands of the whole thing and lets the buyer and seller consummate the deal on their own. There's no after-sale service whatsoever. So I'm going to assume that Sotheby's is closer to the Haggerty model than the BAT model, but we don't know one way or the other. Chris Carbine says that it's a 5% seller's fee, or no seller's fee.
Sounds about
5% buyer's fee. So
buyer's fee. Yep. Sounds right. Thank you, Chris.
That sounds good. Yeah. All right. Well, let us know what you guys think this R8 will bring, and we got one last car to talk about. What do we got?
All right, JP, not in studio, but in everybody's heart is our third bird, Nicole Johnson, selected for us this 1978 Toyota Chinook 4x4 conversion. This car is running no reserve on Bring It Trailer, and it is an alumni car. Our car previously sold on Bring It Trailer in August of 2020. That is right before the market turned up, JP. And back then, this car brought $49,000 when it was showing 44,000 miles and true mileage unknown back in Portland, Oregon. Today, the car is showing 47,000 miles and is listed out of Summit Park, Utah. So my goodness, 78 Toyota Chinook was converted to four-wheel drive under prior ownership using 1991 frame and front axle suspension system and an engine from a 1980 Toyota 4x4 pickup. It's finished in walnut metallic. Replacement 2.2 liter 20R inline four paired with a G52 5-speed manual transmission and a dual range transfer case. Suspension lift kit, bush guards, fog lights. I mean, it's got all the business. But the big thing here is the root beer brown metallic paint and the Chinook Winnebago thing that has a big pop-up tent. I mean, JP, look at those driver seats. Look at those front seats are awesome.
The carpet.
They're so period correct. I mean, this thing is a gas. I will tell you this right now, Sarah, do not show it to my wife. She is dying for us to get some sort of camper overland thing, and she would absolutely love this rig. So just absolute, this thing's a gas. I've never seen anything quite like it, at least not that I would been paying attention to. So Nicole, thank you for selecting this car for us to have fun with. JP, listen, you grow up in a land full of bro dozers. I grew up in the city. This car is beyond my comprehension. There's more on here than I could possibly pick out with my own two eyes. John, tell me what you see when you look at this car, and what do you like about it?
I see a good time. Look at this. Look at how much fun you can have in the back of this car. Oh my God, that carpet.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what's the movie Dumb and Dumber? What's the most annoying sound you've ever heard?
Yes.
I mean, that carpet is just screaming the dog mobile. This truck is all over the place. I mean, this is kitschy and it's fun and it's something that you could own and be ironic, but I'm shocked at that number that it brought a couple of years ago at the height of the market. I suspect that, we saw during the lockdowns, one of the things that we saw a lot of was that RVs just spiked. Not just cars,
yep.
but like any way to get out of the house. People were looking for ways to do that. And, you could go buy a regular old brand new RV and not have any kind of, class, or I don't know, class isn't the right word for it, but, there's just nothing fun about a modern RV. They really are just Social Security offices on wheels. I mean, they're just the most lame things you can possibly imagine. This, anywhere, any RV park or campground that you show up at, even the bears are going to be smiling. This is just, but why doesn't the hood close? What's going on with that thing? I don't think this thing has any chance to get anywhere close to what it brought at the top of the market, because we have seen RV prices have collapsed. We've talked about sports cars, we talk about collector cars all the time, but RVs and campers and stuff like that, they spiked and they're rock bottom. Wade, what do you think of this thing?
I think I can smell it from here. I can smell the must and the odor that this thing has. It's so odd. From one perspective, it is this seemingly reliable Toyota Overlander thing, but then they built it up. I mean, the engine bay in that looks like a drag racer or some sort of tractor. It's insane. The front seats are bizarre. They teeter on racing seats and or comfortable. I can't tell which they're trying to be. And the sort of, I guess, RV part is nice, but it's not modern or luxurious. So I wonder where the money ran out or the interest ran out to renovate this or trick this out. It's so bizarre and it's so all over the place. And I think, like you said, at the end of the day, this is a Overlander RV rig that probably has missed the boat as far as interest and popularity. And I wonder just how significant of a hit the seller is going to have on this. I also don't know that the market for this was ever really that wide as opposed to the Sprinter vans and some of the other builds that we've seen. I mean, this is just such a unique and specific sort of retro thing. And it's not the biggest thing. It's not the greatest outdoor or off-road sort of rig, but it is interesting nonetheless. And that's probably the kindest way to put it.
Yeah, boy. Okay, so Gerd, friend of the show, who always knows and probably is the Yahtzee king of the nerd herd, he says this was a no sale at $40,000, and a week later it was a no sale for $35,000 on P-Car Market. So talk about a seller freaking out. What are they thinking here, and why did BAT take it? What's this going to bring?
JP, I'm reading the specs on this motor. I don't want to get too far gone, but like the motor in this thing is insane. Dual McCuney side graft carburetors with a K&N air filter, comp cams, a 3-core aluminum radiator, Y header and Mallory performance ignition and remote oil cooler and oversized valves. I mean, that is a build. I bet you that motor is 20 grand. I mean, that's very interesting.
Just a 20R. I mean, that's.
Yeah, but still, that's a lot of work and a lot of hours. By today, I bet you it would cost a lot of money to build that motor, more than you think, is what I'm saying. Maybe not 20 grand, but it's still certainly not cheap. JP, again, you hit it right on the head. In the fall of 2020, these things skyrocketed, and the 48 that this guy spent is never going to 49. He's never going to get it back. It's currently sitting at $24,500. And that is on just 4 bids. This car is DOA. If who was it? Was it Gerd that was talking about the 2 no sales? I don't know how recent they were, but clearly people have traced the VIN on this car and they've seen that it's languished. I think this car's DOA, JP. I think it gets a couple more bids, but I don't think it's going to break 30. I'm going to go $29,000 and suggest that that's not what the vehicle is worth, but I think that that's what this car is sort of brandished with because of its no sales and because of the downturn in the value of recreational vehicles in comparison to what he paid for it at the height of their appeal. So this guy's got a firm grip on this car, and until he's prepared to rip the Band-Aid off and list it somewhere with way better photos and list it at no reserve, I don't think this car is going to sell. At $29,000, I think he winds up holding on to it and is going to have to wait, another season and take much better photos.
Yeah, the inside of this car smells like an old Coors can. Everyone in the nerd herd is kind of hitting it at somewhere under 30. So the question is, will it get there? Gerd says 30, and Gerd's the word, so I'm going with 30. I'm going to say it makes it there. But I got to ask you guys, this thing, I mean, it's at 24, right already? 24 and a half?
24.5.
That 924
on
turbo,
4 bids.
Yeah, that 924 turbo that we talked about from the last episode, the Safari vehicle. Wouldn't you rather have that? You could have 2 of them for how much this thing might bring. Wade, where are you at?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Hold on, JP, fix your bid. Don't copy Gerd. Just give me $100 one way or the other.
All right, I'll go $30,100.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know that this was ever a $50,000 or even $40,000 rig. When you really put it in a perspective, I think an extra 10 or 20% was just the hype of COVID and the hype of the outdoors and all that. For 30 grand, you should probably walk away 30, 31, 32. But unfortunately, I don't think it's going to even hit that. I mean, it's sold a few times, it's tainted, and it's been attempted to sell so quickly now that like anybody who was interested is probably either relieved or they're like, well, if they're not going to take that, I'm not going to bid anymore. So this probably stalls out at 27.5, maybe gets a couple of more bids and then fails to sell again. And I hope they enjoy their summer in the back of that because, they missed the boat here.
Does look like it has AC. I wonder if that works.
Did we get Nicole's bids and she picked the car? Where's Nicole at in the herd? Did we see her?
She's still watching. I know she was watching earlier. She might have had something better to do. I wouldn't hang out with us for this long.
All right. Well, we'll cover it. We'll cover it on the backside. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah.
Well, there you go, guys. What do you think this 78 Toyota Chinook that has failed to sell twice recently, is the seller freaking out, trying to get it on BAT for that last-ditch effort? If it doesn't sell here, what do? This thing ain't going to Sotheby's. This ain't going to Car Week. You are stuck with it, like my partner Michael Deeb says. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and that is all of our predictions for this episode. Wade, it was great having you back in studio.
Great to be back. This has been an honor, and shout out to all the new nerds and everybody else. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, make sure you don't miss us if we're ever on time, which I gotta say, you've been consistent, you've been on time, very few technical difficulties this time around. What a show, right?
Thanks for being here, man. I think, the reason why we've been on time is because we've been getting our fine Swiss watches serviced at Our Smiths. I'm sure that's what it is. If you guys want to sell your car on an auction site and you don't want to deal with BAT Cars and Bids or P-Car Market. You can talk to my partner, Michael Deeb, who works for where?
Haggerty Marketplace.
Did you have to think about that?
Broad Arrow Group.
Well, in the morning I'm at 7-Eleven, but I moonlight at...
Motorlux is the name of the party at the Jet Center on Wednesday night during Monterey Car Week. It is sort of the unofficial kickoff to all of the craziness that is the weekend. We are sliding our auction one day forward, so we're going to run about 70 to 90 young timers on that Wednesday evening at the Motorlux party. We are taking consignments. If you have an interesting car that you'd like to put in the live auction or just something you want to run on our live online auction marketplace, reach out to me on Instagram at @TheMcDeeb or just message me in the Instagram channel for the show at Bid Nerds, and we will connect. And then JP, we got to talk about our guest for next week at some point.
Go ahead and introduce who we got a big guest next week. It's gonna be a big deal.
So on Sunday night, our good friend, everybody, if you have a Porsche, Ray Schaefer is your good friend. Ray Schaefer, who has worked in the dealer world for Porsche. He has also worked for Porsche Classic USA. Ray Schaefer is a colleague of mine at Haggerty Marketplace and a car specialist for Broad Arrow Group and a brand ambassador for Haggerty. Ray Schaefer is going to be our guest. He's going to be Third Nerd on Sunday night. So please make sure you watch us and see Ray Schaefer on Sunday night show. He is the best. He really just an absolute gem of a guy, and he really knows his Porsches and can help you with your vintage racing. Ray's running a 944 Turbo Cup car. Ray is the most positive Porsche person I've ever met, and that's saying a lot.
Awesome. So definitely tune in live for that Sunday night. And we just want to tease something that we're considering doing here. Probably going to start it in July. We're calling the project, and we don't have an official name for it yet, but we're calling it Project Bid Nerds Red Zone. We are going to every Friday in July, and I don't know what the hell we're asking. This is we are nuts. But starting in July on Fridays, when Bring a Trailer goes live and the first 10 minutes before the first auction is scheduled to close, we are going to start streaming. We'll probably be screaming by the end of the show, but we'll be streaming at the beginning of the show. We're going to stream for 6 hours. We're going to stream all day, and we're going to red zone all the closings.
Till 3 p.m.
Till 3 p.m.
110 cars.
Until the last car is finished, is hammered. So, if the last car gets bid for an extra hour, we will hang out and cover that last auction. We're going to stream all the auctions on Fridays starting in July. We will make an announcement officially about it soon, but let us know what you guys think. We were definitely dying to hear your guys' feedback for this. How we're going to do it.
I brought it up to my wife Esther this morning.
And much to my chagrin this afternoon.
No, the opposite. Much to my chagrin, she was like, "Okay," and I was like, "Really?" I was kind of hoping you'd veto it, so I could say to JP, "I don't think my wife will go for it." She was like, "Oh, I get to lock you in the office for 6 hours?" She's like, "Yeah, go ahead." I'm like, "Great." So I've been green lighted to do the show, JP. My wife will take care of the house for a day. So there you go.
All right, it's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll definitely be talking
more
about
the fort
that later. But all right, there it is. You heard it here first. First announcement public about it. The Bid Nerds Red Zone Fridays coming up. Yeah, we are open to ideas for the show. We're going to we'll bring guests in every hour and stuff like that. We'll have a lot of fun with it. But send us DMs if you got ideas. And that's it. That's a show. We are done for the night. We will see you guys Sunday. Thanks again,
Thank you, Wade.
Of course. Y'all have a good night.
Tech Daily. At Tech Daily.
At Tech Daily.
Bye.
Get those nerds!